Neerja, you saw the coverage of the Samvidhan Hatya Divas. There were speeches, there were events at Tyagrat Stadium. Apparently, some schools in Madhya Pradesh will also be teaching it, which should be taught.
I personally feel it's a very good thing to do. I keep saying this today in India, 65% of Indians are below the age of 35. And if you take 50 years, I keep saying it would be safe to assume that 4 out of 5 Indians were either not born or just born at that time. They've heard, if you talk to them, they have heard about this thing called emergency. They may have heard about Indira Gandhi, but they have no idea about what really happened.
Emergency cannot be remembered without remembering JP movement. So counter current, he says the JP movement mobilization, and here he gets into an argumentative zone that it was also anti-democratic because JP asked for a kind of mobilization which was not through democratic institutions.
Emergency was not such a big deal in the South for some reason, is it?
Congress actually did very well in 1977 elections in southern states.
There was no Natsbandi. There was no enforced sterilizations in the South as they were in the
It wasn't
India
as violent there as it was in the North.
Natsbandi
So it
was
is a
more
reaction.
prominent in Delhi.
That's right, all over
Tamta
North India.
was the municipal commissioner.
10 million people were
Forcibly
sterilized, and many of them under duress.
Right.
So there was a reaction, there was anger.
I want you to talk about that new law which the Congress government in Karnataka is coming up with. They clearly don't learn from their mistakes.
Congress as a party does not learn a lesson that they bring a problematic or draconian law. If the BJP comes back to power, they will use it much better than the Congress will ever do.
There was Lalu's interview, that was like a counter narrative where he...
Lalu also, when he said, that of course at the end of the day she called for elections.
Right.
His daughter is the only person who
Has been named after.
who has legacy of emergency in her name, Misa.
Right.
So
Misa Bharti.
Misha, maintenance of internal security act.
He was named after that. Yeah. Elon Musk, you came much later. Lalu has
He was the OG.
OG of unusual names. You did a report which has led to a Twitter war between Rahul Gandhi and Devendra Fadnavis.
Nagpur Southwest has some 378 booths, and we downloaded voter list of each of those booths from the Election Commission of India's website. This is the same voter list which the Congress has been asking the Election Commission of India to provide. And then what we did, we extracted the numbers from those voter lists into an Excel sheet, and then we calculated the rate of addition on each of those booths and the rate of deletion. And what we found out...
Welcome to Chhota Hafta. Now, Chhota Hafta is but a small, chhota version of a complete weekly podcast, Newslaundry Hafta. The Newslaundry Hafta is where you get the week's news, what made the headlines, what didn't make the headlines, but the full version is available to subscribers only. And I don't mean YouTube subscribers, although YouTube subscribers are also very welcome, very grateful to you, but also to Newslaundry subscribers, the paying subscribers who pay to keep news free. So you can also become a paying subscriber by clicking the subscription link. Now what do you get if you're a paying subscriber? You get access to all our paywall content, all interviews, podcasts, and importantly, you get access to a full unedited Hafta, where you not only get to hear the week's news, but you get to hear the Newslaundry editors' positions on matters. You get to see their biases, what are their prejudices. It's an exercise in transparency while also informing you, and we have a few quips and jokes and agreements and disagreements thrown in. So listen to the full Hafta, subscribe to Newslaundry, and pay to keep news free. Here we go.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of NL Hafta. We record this on Friday, the 27th of June at 11:15 in the morning. It is a week where we are remembering 50 years of emergency, which we shall talk about. But first, let me introduce the panel to you. First, let me tell you who's not here. Manisha is not here. She will be joining us next week. But in the studio, we are privileged, and it's always a pleasure to have one of the most sensible and credible voices in Indian journalism for a few decades now, Neerja Chowdhury. Thank you, Neerja.
Thank you.
For making an effort always and joining us. Small outfit. But also our editor-in-chief, Raman Kirpal.
Hello.
Anand Vardhan, who
Hello.
has emerged after a while. Welcome. And Jayashree,
Hello,
who
hello.
joins us from Chennai. I have to do the Opcharikta of introducing Neerja formally. She's an Indian journalist, columnist, political commentator, currently serving as contributing editor at the Indian Express. She's also the author of the book, How Prime Minister Decide. You can order it in the link in the show notes below. And if you mail us at podcasts@newslaundry.com, we will also request you to sign it. So we will actually buy it for you and get you to sign it. So you can mail us at podcasts@newslaundry.com. She's received several prestigious awards, including the Chameli Devi Jain Award for Outstanding Women Media Person and the Prem Bhatia Award. And later, Dhanya Rajendran will be joining us to discuss some matters from the South, who is also a Chameli Devi Jain Award winner. So, do we have two Chameli Devi Jain Award winners in today's Hafta? A quick appeal, we have a new Sena project. This is to do with an extremely organized mafia that is doing us dirty. These phones, laptops that we dispose, they are huge environmental hazards because they have all sorts of chemicals, including mercury, I'm guessing, which seep into the soil, and they're supposed to be disposed in an eco-friendly way, and there is a policy around that. And we have just stumbled upon a vast network of corruption, over lack of oversight on regulatory framework, and lobbying by big parties to make sure that they don't have to do this, which endangers the health and lives of not just us, but our children. Many of you have often said we should do more stories related to the environment. They take a lot of time, effort, and this has the intersection of investigation, environment, regulation. One story is out. It is the most basic one, but we are digging very deep into this. So here's a QR code. The link is in the show notes below. So do please contribute and help us get to the bottom of this. We want to dedicate 2 or 3 resources exclusively to the story for the next couple of months. We hope we can do that. Neerja, you saw the coverage of the Samvidhan Hatya Divas, and of course, there is a large, not a celebration. What's the correct word? Anand, you always have the right word for every occasion. What would we call what Samvidhan Hatya Divas is? A remembrance,
Commemoration.
Recall.
And there were speeches, there were events at Tyagrat Stadium. Apparently, some schools in Madhya Pradesh will also be teaching it, which should be taught.
Probably the darkest period of India's history. You know, this country which doomsayers had said would not survive as a democracy, but they did survive as a democracy for just under 3 decades, and then went under for those 21 months. When people were picked up on the night of 25th June, forget the prominent leaders, JP and Morarji and Charan Singh and Vajpayee and Advani and Chandrasekhar and so on. George Fernandez gave them the slip for a whole year and was caught a year later. He was in underground.
As
And
was
then-
Prime Minister Modi.
And from Prime Minister Modi, that book I haven't seen, that how his political career has been shaped by those months. But what I'm saying is that it is a chapter which India must learn about and promise to itself it will never, never, never be repeated.
Now, yeah. So now I completely agree with you on all of it. But on the last bit, have we learnt that lesson?
So I don't know whether India is doing well. Does it necessarily lead to you taking on the cudgels on behalf of those who don't have anything? Or
I don't agree with the ideology that is there, that makes them, want to do what they do. But way too many RSS Swayamsevaks who I've met are still doing what they do not because of any financial motivations, and I don't find them in any other political grouping as
That's
such.
I think that is true.
That is
I
true.
think
I
that
don't
is
agree with.
absolutely fair.
I don't
Yeah.
agree with the vision of India they
You
have
can
in mind.
agree with the ideology. I
But
disagree
they're
with that.
doing it because they believe in that vision, not because they want this contract or that contract. There may be many who do, but
And
all other
that is-
political
And
groupings.
that is what gives the BJP as a party an edge. It has a huge, humongous machinery, election machinery today, and what they call the largest political organization in the world. But what gives it a push is that. And the reason why they lost out in the 2024 elections, then came down to 240 seats, is because
The first thing we see in the initial months of emergency, that order and stability were the primary values that at least the urban middle class and even in say the hinterland, the order aspect was more valuable. Stability aspect. So it is a very primal kind of response when there is some disorder or chaos. The first instinct is to restore order, not restore democracy. So there a large section of people who aligned with Mrs. Gandhi's cause that order is important, and and it when it progressed, of course it lost some of its sin, but the important fact is that the people who
This new rule, how dangerous is it for the media, which your state is introducing?
Minister is saying that there will be public consultations. I hope that everybody who goes for the consultation tells them that put this in the bin. Because there is no place for this bill. I mean, what are they talking about? That this one authority will meet, they will decide what fake news is. And remember, this is giving 7 years punishment. That is what the bill is, criminalizing fake news to the extent of 7 years punishment. We have enough research now to show that across the world, wherever there have been attempts to criminalize fake news, in the garb of clamping down on fake news, what is happening is censorship of the media, of activists, of whistleblowers. And I do not know why, despite their first attempt being a spectacular failure, the Karnataka government wants to do this again.
My contribution is I'll do a little rant because, see, I know there's that cliche of the undeclared emergency, but I think it cannot be overstated. I think in the context of any conversation of 50 years of the emergency, you have to compare what things were like then with what they are like now. I think Umar Khalid has been in jail for double the duration of the period of the emergency. You can add on Indira Gandhi's losing the election. He's still been in jail that entire period. You can talk about the Delhi riots. You can talk about Bhime Koregaon, the CA protest, 8,000 handles suspended during Operation Sindoor. We have the maximum number of shutdowns in the world. And this is not like only looking at democracies or autocracies or whatever. We have the maximum number of internet shutdowns in the world.
We have our much promised and in waiting podcast, Let's Talk About Trans Lives Out.
If you log on to social media or scan the major news headlines of the week, you'll realize there is one universal truth. And that truth is this: everyone loves to have an opinion on transgender issues, on the pronouns they use, their representation, the sports they play, even what bathrooms they use. And more often than not, these conversations take place without trans or queer voices in the room. Because this is also true. Very few of us listen to trans people on the realities they face, the joys and triumphs, the violence and resistance, and their everyday negotiations for identity. Welcome to Let's Talk About Trans Lives.
So, Sumedha, you did a report which has led to a Twitter war between Rahul Gandhi and Devendra Fadnavis, and all sorts of numbers are being thrown around. In fact, Indian Express quoted our report.
Yeah.
And-
Telegraph also.
And they ascribed, they credited us as well on it. So, can you just briefly tell our audience what is this report?
Nagpur Southwest constituency, which Devendra Fadnavis won from a margin of 39,000 votes. And we just wanted, and we picked up this constituency because it's a VIP constituency, and we just wanted to do a litmus test. And Maharashtra, out of 250 constituencies which Maharashtra has. So when we calculated all those numbers, we found out over 29,000 voters have been added. So,
Which is 8%.
which is a rise of 8.25%.
Which is significantly higher than the average, because just to tell our audience, it is not unusual for a constituency for voters to go up or down. For example, there'll be a lot of deletions from, let's say, Dholakon area in Delhi, because that is a 4G area.
Yeah.
So if you've been posted there, you'll be posted out after 2-3 years. So then your name will be struck off the list. You will go wherever it is. So in certain constituencies, they go up and down, but this was double the average.
This was so the Election Commission of India says the usual rate of increase of voters on every booth should not be more than 4%, and the usual rate of deletion is 2%.
Right.
And they have narrowed down on the figures on the basis of the birth rate and the death rate of India. So the rate of addition, the cutoff for rate of addition is 4%, because our birth rate is higher than our death rate.
Right.
So any constituency or any booth which is showing this unusual behavior, that means there's something.
The Congress is written in saying that we want access to the voter list, right? And then the Election Commission is saying, well, we've given it to you in a text file. And they're like, but we want it to be a searchable document, therefore like a PDF. And this is what I'm just so stuck up on, is that I think what the Election Commission has indicated is that in 2018, I think Kamal Nath or somebody asked for the same thing, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, well, they've given you a text file. We are not entitled to give you anything further than that. And I'm just, I don't understand why asking for data has to be such a barrier.
बस मुफ्त में इतना ही मिलेगा. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to Newslaundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to the Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the Newslaundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that Newslaundry is trying to encourage, where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to Newslaundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.